Hey everybody, what's going on? Hellmite here, bringing you another video from Grab the Lantern today. Today I wanted to talk about the Mordekaiser changes that have been floating around on PvE that are really quite interesting. For those of you who didn't see, on PvE right now, Riot are floating some changes that would disallow Mordekaiser's ultimate from being removed by Quicksilver Sash. Now this obviously is a big deal. This has been in the game ever since Mordekaiser's VGU came out, has been one of the few counterplay ways in which you can deal with Mordekaiser's ultimate, and it's finally getting removed from the game, which has led to a lot of discussion not only as far as Mordekaiser's balance and design is concerned, but also the balance and design of Quicksilver Sash, which is not what I expected to see, but which some people are talking about. And I wanted to wade into this discussion today and talk about why I don't think this change is a big deal for Mordekaiser, but also why I don't think this change is a big deal for Quicksilver Sash. So let's go ahead and talk about why this isn't that relevant for Mordekaiser. First, Mordekaiser Ultimate has plenty of counterplay as is. Terrain and brush coming with him to the Death Realm means that there's plenty of opportunity for players to duck and dodge out of line of sight or over walls to play keep away from Mordekaiser until the ability ends. There are no shortage of opportunities where you go over a wall and Mordekaiser doesn't have flash and he literally just like stands there in silence and shame until the ability ends. And plenty of opportunities as well where even though you're in a wide open field, you can sort of stay away from Mordekaiser long enough for the 7 seconds to elapse. Mordekaiser's abilities, after all have relatively telegraphed wind-up times. Death's Grasp and Obliterate all are fairly obvious, and as a result, if you can stay out of their way, you're going to take damage from the auto attacks and from the passive, but you're not going to take the big chunks of damage that you would expect out of getting hit with an Obliterate because you have the ability to dodge these. If you're tanky enough or strong enough as well, you can even just like fight Mordekaiser in his Death Realm. And it's not just a free space for him to beat you up. You do have the ability to fight him back and even kill him. And even if you die, but after Death Realm expires, Mordekaiser might have gotten the kill, but he's not getting your stats, which is a major portion of the ability's power budget. As a result, there's plenty of things that you can do against a Mordekaiser, even if you get banished to the Death Realm, and somehow implying that the only thing you can do is cleanse it to counterplay is just nonsensical. Additionally, the fact that Quicksilver Sash cleansed Mordekaiser's ultimate just doesn't make a lot of sense, unfortunately. I don't really understand why it was added, and it basically, well, I know why, but it's meta knowledge, right? If you read Mordekaiser's ultimate tooltip, and you read Quicksilver Sash's tooltip, there's nothing on them to indicate that this interaction exists, right? If you're a new player and you're playing the game for the first time, either as Mordekaiser or against Mordekaiser, you have no idea that this is even a thing, which leads to some very feels-bad scenarios. I'm a brand new player, I get beat up by a Mordekaiser for 20 minutes, and then after those 20 minutes, my team is telling me, why didn't you build a QSS? And you're like, why would I do that? His only form of crowd control can't be QSS, right? That's the pullback on his E, and they're like, no, it removes Death Realm. How was I supposed to know that, right? There's nothing on any of this to indicate that QSS works in that way, but it does. Conversely, my name is Mordekaiser, I'm feeling great about myself, I ult the enemy champion, and then my Death Realm just fizzles. What the hell happened? Yeah, they've got a QSS, does that really work? Is that really how that operates? I read the tooltip, it doesn't seem to work that way, but apparently it does because it keeps happening, so the only thing I can assume is that Quicksilver Sash removes my R for some reason. Both of these are extremely frustrating scenarios to be in, and even once you have the meta knowledge and understand that this is how it works, because QSS's cooldown is always lower than Mordekaiser's ultimate cooldown, there's never an opportunity for you to ult someone that has a QSS where the QSS is on cooldown, unless you can somehow force them to use it in another aspect, right? Like if they have to QSS a Morgana binding so they don't die in a previous gank attempt, then you can ult them, but otherwise if you're like just top lane dealing with a guy and they have a Quicksilver Sash, they're always out of your ultimate. There's nothing you can do about that, and that's a really feels bad scenario for a Mordekaiser player to be in. As a result, I would love it for this to be removed in general, just to remove that sort of burden of knowledge that exists in the game that doesn't make any sense at all. Finally, the only reason Mordekaiser's ultimate was QSSable was as an emergency release valve for pro play. Morde's rework was concerning for the live balance team with regards to professional play, because if he became a problem, Death Realm does have counterplay, but maybe not enough counterplay. They essentially panicked and said, okay, we'll build it in so that QSS can remove Mordekaiser's ultimate just on the off chance he becomes too good in pro hands. And while Mordekaiser was playable in professional play for a very short stint after his VGU came out, he's been out of pro play for years now. Mordekaiser's not really made a big splash. He's actually even been struggling in casual play, and so it just doesn't make sense to leave this in the game any longer when it's not even really doing the job that it was supposed to do in the first place. You may as well just remove the handicap and allow Mordekaiser ultimate to function in a way that makes sense to everybody playing the game. So this all is well and good for Mordekaiser, but this change also doesn't matter for Quicksilver Sash. Some players, for whatever reason, seem to think that this is a death knell for Quicksilver Sash. This is an item that has a fairly niche user base and which isn't very gold efficient stat-wise. You are buying a Quicksilver Sash for the most part because you want the cleanse. But, like, this assumption that Quicksilver Sash is now useless is completely irrelevant. I don't know why you're making this assumption. QSS being niche is fine, because it was never not going to be niche, and that's okay. An item being niche is fine, because not every item needs to be buildable in every single game, because the item system is a good way for Riot to build in these emergency release valves for specific champions or playstyles that doesn't completely remove those champions from existence starting from Champion Select. For example, Edge of Night and Banshee's Veil are relatively niche items. They're good against enemy hook champions and assassins, but otherwise you're not really building them. Grievous Wounds, for example, unless there's a Dr. Mundo or a Soraka or a Vladimir in the game, why are you building Grievous? Don't bother. You can completely skip out on that. Armor penetration items, right, outside of lethality, which generally are useful, but like heavy armor penetration items are useful against tanks or armor stackers, but otherwise you don't have to build them. Don't build them because they're not going to help you. And of course, QSS is good against specific champions, Malzahar, Skarner, and Warwick, without removing them from existence, but also has more utility than just that. It can cleanse other crowd control abilities like Rise W, Morgana Q, Sejuani ult, like too many things to list, and this gives it flexibility as a way to have access to a cleansing effect that doesn't eat a summoner spell slot. Sometimes you don't have the ability to take cleanse as a summoner spell. If you're mid lane and feel like you really need teleport, if you're top lane and have to have teleport, if you're a jungler and have to have smite, right? Like, you don't have the option of taking cleanse, but if you want it, you can still buy it as a QSS. Even as an AD carry, maybe you took heal because you're playing quick play and you have to blind pick your summoner spells, so you took heal because that's the best in the vacuum, and you find you're up against a Thresh. Great, I can build a QSS if I feel like I absolutely need it to deal with this guy. And just having it in general as an option, even if you knew that there were enemy cleanse guys, but you're like, I'm Ezreal, I'll never get hit, but then this guy's playing like Mad Life, and you're like, okay, I guess I'll buy a QSS because I need it. It's there and available. I think the item system does a very good job of building in these extra release valves of things that you can opt into if you need them, but which otherwise can sit on the shelf for whenever you don't need them. I was actually very frustrated by Riot when they removed Silvermere Dawn for being a niche item. Like, yes, it was a niche item. That's fine. Allow fighters to have the ability to build a Quicksilver Sash and upgrade it and do something relevant to them later in the game if they decide they need it. It doesn't have to get built in even the vast majority of games, but having it available is important, and I think that Quicksilver Sash is certainly an item that will continue to exist in League of Legends because it still does a ton of things. Even disregarding its suppression cleanse, which is one of the biggest reasons to keep it in the game because, hello, Malzahar still exists, Warwick still exists, Skarner now is running around and still exists, right? Like, there are still definitely reasons to take it. So ultimately, I think the Mordekaiser ultimate change with QSS is extremely defensible by Riot. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think it's probably high time for it to be removed, that interaction to be removed from the game. And I think Quicksilver Sash is going to be fine, you guys. Yes, it's gold inefficient, that's fine. You're building it for the cleanse. Yes, it's niche. That's fine. You're going to build it when you need it and not build it when you don't need it. It's not a core item by any stretch of the imagination, and that's okay. So generally, I think that these changes are very interesting by Riot, and I'm a big fan of them. But let me know what you think down in the comment section below. If you think Quicksilver Sash should be removed from the game, if you think Mordekaiser's ultimate should continue to be QSSable, let me know down in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you enjoyed the video today, go ahead and leave it a like. And if you really enjoyed the video, consider subscribing. I put a video every Monday, Friday, and on patch days as well. Once again, thank you guys so very much for watching. I do appreciate it. And I'll talk to you all later.